This is part 2 of the video demonstration for Say Mama, Your First Jazz Words. That's a handout that's available at LearnJazzStandards.com. And in the first part, I was just talking about really isolating some licks, which are normally going to be shorter ideas, really kind of building blocks. So one measure, two measure ideas that you can use and start to insert into solos and actually start to create a language. And that's the whole genesis for, calling it Say Mama. Really Mama, Dada. When babies start speaking, they're basically just imitating what they're hearing their parents say. And that's the same type of thing I find with younger players. If they haven't been listening to jazz recordings, they'll tend to, sometimes they'll have all the correct information. Somebody will be giving them the scales that go with the right chords, and they can figure out all the math, but the language just isn't there. And I've noticed that a lot at junior high and high school jazz band competitions when they'll start soloing. If they're just left to their own devices, or you give them a blues scale, they'll just kind of play straight up and down that blues scale. It's kind of an up and down, where it's basically just like you're rattling off the ABCs or something. In the first demonstration I talked about the hard bop blues lick, which is really a way of putting this blues scale material to a little bit more useful purposes. Those are still all the same notes from the blues scale, and I think in a lot of ways it's more beneficial to have young players learn blues heads, learn melodies. Sunny Moon for Two by Sonny Rollins, or Bag's Groove by Mel Jackson. Almost any of those kind of riff-oriented type of things, type of melodies. A lot of the blues melodies that come out of the hard bop vocabulary, a lot of the Blue Note recordings, Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, Lee Morgan, and so forth. Those are all good places to really start, because really when you think about it, that's the genesis of the blues. The blues scale really came from this material. So it's from these blues tunes and from the soloing of these players. And then I think it was more of an educational tool. Jazz educators really putting together, well, here are the notes that are kind of put together. And I know some educators that have been very adamant about, I don't teach the blues scale. I don't have anybody, play the blues scale. Technically it's really semantics, because you are going to be playing the blues scale in one way, shape, or form, whether you specifically work on the blues scale or not. If you work up a lick such as, you're basically playing the blues scale. You're playing blues scale material, but you're playing it in a more specific manner, which I think is really good. So I've gone through all those different licks. The licks that were introduced in part 1 of this the two-part video here was the ornithology lick, and then also the 2 minor 7 lick. That'd be off of concert D minor 7. The hard bop lick I just played. And then the bop triplet, which is just a little turn of phrase that you hear quite a bit from the bebop players, most often, but not exclusively, built off of the 3rd and the 7th of the chord if you're in a major key. From the key of C concert, then it would be off of an E natural. Or the 7th would be B natural. So that type of thing. And then I have some variations. And then the one off the 7th. So the second page of this Say Mama, Your First Jazz Words, is just a 12-bar blues in the key of F, where I've put all of these patterns together. And if you have the handout in front of you, they'll actually label them. It starts out with the hard bop lick, and there's a variation on the hard bop lick. The 2 minor 7 lick makes its entrance there in the last 4 measures. You'll hear it over the G minor 7. And then ornithology and the bop triplet, all kind of put together. This is just a standard Jamie Ebersol play-along. And again, at LearnJazzStandards.com, there are several play-along tracks available too for you to work with. Here we go. And then as I got into the third course there, really just a couple different ways of working that material in. As you're working on each individual idea, it would be good, especially with the hard bop lick, which it can be used kind of in the same way that a blues scale or a minor pentatonic scale can be used. You can use that all the way through, and especially for younger players. Show them that pattern. And then have them try to experiment with that. And I found a lot of times with the younger players, you really have to keep them on task and say, no, you need to keep playing that idea, because a lot of times the thread of that idea will get lost. They'll start going back, reverting back to just kind of playing up and down some scale material instead of the specific, being really specific and kind of keeping your subject matter. It's really like you're presenting a thesis and you want to kind of keep on the idea that you're presenting instead of introducing some different ideas or straying completely off topic. So trying to stay on topic with that. The same type of thing, if you're practicing through 2-5-1s in major keys, you can play those ornithology licks, you know, all the way through. Usually, the way of presenting to younger players too, instead of overwhelming them with lots of information, each one of these in this handout you could really spend quite a bit of time only exploring the ornithology lick, and then moving on to the 2 minor 7 lick for a while, and then the hard bop lick. And like I mentioned in the first part of the video, part 1 of this video series for this Say Mama handout, is I demonstrated a John Coltrane lick, so that was one that I first discovered listening to a lot of the recordings he did with Miles Davis's quintet and Workin', Steamin', Relaxin', Cookin', that series that he recorded for Prestige before he left Prestige to start recording on Columbia. Sonny Stitt licks, Charlie Parker licks, particularly bebop players tend to have a very specific vocabulary. So that's the main idea behind this. If you started out watching this video and you missed part 1, make sure that you watch them together, because I go through the licks and talk about those in part 1 and then demonstrate them how they can be played along with the traditional blues play along and playing in the 12-bar blues in the key of F. So that's Say Mama, your first jazz words, again available on learnjazzstandards.com. And if you're watching this video somewhere other than that particular website, make sure you do check that out. It's constructed by Camden Hughes, and he's doing a really good job of getting a lot of different various jazz materials together.